Good evening, lords, ladies and gentlemen. It's wonderful to see you. As Craig said, my name's Warwick, and I'm the director of Victoria Institute for Links with Latin America, which the acronym for which is Villa, which happens to be my favourite football team as well. That's the first connection. I'm probably the least exotic person to be here this evening. I've come all the way to be here tonight from Karori. Anyone from Karori? Anyone here from Karori? And what I'm going to try and do is I'm going to sing you a song, and then I'm going to try and explain why I wrote that song. The song's called Santiago Nights, and the talk's called From Birmingham Days to Santiago Nights. Hit it, James. Santiago nights, Santiago nights, Santiago nights, Santiago nights, Santiago nights, Santiago nights. Thanks very much. Now I'm going to try and explain that song now. It was some 20 or so years ago, and there I was, headed for the University of Chile. Previous to that, I'd been living in Birmingham days, you see, and I was studying geography. And I love mountains and rivers and the coast and that kind of thing. And I needed a third-year option paper. And I walked past the notice board, and it said urbanization and industrialization in Latin America. And I thought, that sounds absolutely wonderful. So I enrolled for it, and I got the highest mark ever in the history of geography at Birmingham that year. For a course, I got 94%. Everybody say, ooh, ooh, 94%, that's where I lived. And I was enrolled immediately for a PhD, and I went for Spanish lessons, and it was obvious that the lady who taught me Spanish wasn't a professional at this. She was an older woman, and she knew a lot about cake from Spain. And she taught me all about different cakes from all the different regions of Spain. Torta España, which is great if you want to know about torta from España, but it's awful if you want to go to Chile and interview peasant farmers, which is what I wanted to do. I got on the plane. And of course, at this time, I didn't know if I wanted to be a teacher or a rock star. And of course, Sting had done it. And this is a cross between the village people and the police, obviously. I got on the plane. Here comes the plane. I got on the plane to Chile, and I was sat between two nuns, one of whom was huge. She was built like an altar. the other of whom, when she turned sideways, she looked like a communion wafer. And I was brought up a Catholic. I'm not a practicing Catholic. I've practiced and practiced, but I'm not good enough. And I was too scared to ask for beer. And of course, as the lights went out, I drank so much orange juice, I really needed to go to the toilet. But I looked to my right, and there was this big nun built like an altar. And I thought, if I am caught spread-eagled when the lights come up on top of this nun, I've seen what happens. I could be in terrible, terrible trouble. So I got to Chile, talking very polite Spanish, dying for the toilet, and completely sober, which was an enormous shock to me. I hadn't been sober for at least 4 years. It was quite incredible. And a friend of 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 a friend invited me to a party, and I thought, that's great, somebody I know. So I went to this party, and it was a mask party. I turned up, and my future wife said to me, "Where is your mask?" I said, "I've got it on, don't you like it?" She said, "Oh my God, boring English sense of humour." Anyway, 15 years later, these are our beautiful daughters. 6 weeks later, we decided to get married. 6 months later, we were married. It was a very rapid event. We've moved back to New Zealand. I've made some nice friends in Karori. Very exotic group up there, I can tell you. But Jimena and I, that's my wife, we were walking down through the middle of Santiago after we were married, and I had a bottle of we've made some other friends as well, by the way. She's not from Karori, obviously, but showing off. Anyway, we were walking down past San Ignacio in Santiago, and I had a bottle of pisco sour, which at the time I thought was an Alco pop, but clearly not. And who should walk out from San Ignacio Church but the two nuns? The one built like an altar, the one built like a communion wafer. I said, "Oh my God, it's fantastic to see you. Fantastic to see you." And they said, "Oh, fantastic to see you too." I said, "The last time you met me, I was a mute, and you must have thought I had the mental age of a 3-year-old. They said, "We did, but you knew a lot about cake from Spain, didn't you?" I said, "Look what's happened. Look, I like pisco sour, I love chili, I've got married. It's wonderful." And they said, "All that time on the flight from Madrid, we were trying to tell you, don't drink the pisco sour, and whatever you do, don't let a local girl convince you to marry her." Thank God, nuns are sometimes wrong. Thanks.